After what we discussed yesterday on the question of practice of meditation as basic groundwork, that we could go further by discussing the practice of meditation involves a basic sense of continuity. That practicing meditation is no longer regarded as discontinuing one's relationship with oneself and looking for a better person or possibilities of reformation, becoming a better person. And the practice of meditation is a way of continuing one's confusion, chaos, aggression, passion, but working with it, seeing from the enlightened point of view. That is the basic purpose of meditation practice as far as this approach is concerned. There is a term, shamatha, which means development of peace. And in this case, development of peace is the accuracy of harmony rather than peace from the point of view of pain and pleasure. We have experienced pain, discomfort, because we fail to relate with the harmony of things as they are. We haven't seen things as they are precisely, directly, properly. And because of that, we have experienced pain, chaotic pain. And in this case, when we talk about peace, that we are, for the first time, we are able to see ourselves completely, perfectly, beautifully as what we are. Absolutely what we are. It is more than raising the level of potentiality as such. When we talk about raising potentiality, that we are talking in terms of that embryonic situation. This child may be highly disturbed, but he has enormous potentiality of becoming intelligent, less disturbed personality. We have a problem with our language enormously, that our language is so highly and completely evolved in the realm of possessions and achievement. And we have a problem with the language to express the unconditional level of potentiality, even this point. Shamatha, development of peace, is a particular practice of meditation which is the vanguard practice which we might develop, our mindfulness practice. I want you to pay more attention in this term mindfulness. When we talk about mindfulness, generally when we talk about mindfulness, it is a sign of a warning. Simply not a label on your cigarette package. The Surgeon General says this is dangerous to your health. Beware of this. Be mindful of this. And mindfulness is not regarded as warning particularly. And it is regarded, in fact, moreover, as welcoming gesture. That you could be fully minded, mindful. You could be wholesome person, completely wholesome person, by being. Rather than that you should not be doing this or that or that or this, you should look at that way, on the other hand, you look at it on this way, and you could be cured from your infamous problems, whatever you have, your mindless problems, your highly distracted person, your problem of concentration span. You can't even sit for 5 minutes or 1 minute. And you should control yourself, that everybody who practice meditation to begin as naughty boys, naughty girls, that they should learn to control themselves, pay attention to their desk, their notebook, and their teacher on the blackboard. Approach here is has nothing to do with going back to school. And problem of concentration or awareness has nothing to do with the concentration span that you have experienced in your schools at all. This is an entirely new angle, new approach, a development of peace, harmony, openness. There are a lot of attitudes that we have to change. redevelop rather than particularly change. It's that question of that we are going back to school, and those who are students of meditation are becoming good boys and good girls, starting all over again in your training. The practice of meditation in the form of shamatha at the beginner's level is simply being, and bare attention, which has nothing to do with a warning, but just simply to be and keep one's watchful eye completely, thoroughly, properly. According to the traditional discipline, that we have techniques for that. Mindfulness techniques. It is very difficult to explain actually the nature of mindfulness. That when you begin to try to develop mindfulness in the ordinary sense, in a novice sense, first flash of thought is that you are unable to do such thing, and you may not be able to accomplish what you want to do. You feel threatened, and at the same time you feel very romantic that I'm getting into this particular discipline, which is a unique and a very powerful thing for me to do. I feel joyous, contemplative, monkish or nunkish. Sense of renunciation is very romantic. And then actual practice begin to happen, that instructors begin to tell you how to handle your mind and your body and your awareness, your livelihood in practicing such shamatha practice. And we begin to feel heavy loaded donkey pack trying to struggle across highly polished ice stream. You can't have grips on your hoof, and you're heavily loaded with your pack on your back, and people are hitting behind you at the same time, and you feel so inadequate, embarrassing. Every beginner meditator feels like an adolescent donkey, heavily loaded and not knowing how to handle slippery ice. Even when you are introduced various techniques of mindful exercises as help, that you still feel the same thing, that you are dealing with a foreign element, that you are unable to handle them properly, completely. But you should at least show your faith and braveness, that you're willing to go through such ordeal. Training and challenge discipline. One of the problems there is that it's not so much a problem of that you are uncertain how to practice meditation, but you haven't identified the teachings as personal experience. The teachings are still regarded as a foreign element coming into your system, and you have to make the best of yourself out of that. And the sense of foreignness which makes clumsy young donkey, because young donkey is being hassled by his master so much, and already used to carrying a heavy load and used to being hit constantly whenever there is hesitation. That master becomes external entity of fear rather than a donkey's own conviction. A lot of the problems that comes up by practice meditation is largely based on fear of foreignness and sense of that you are unable to relate the teachings as a part of your basic being. That has become the worst problem. In a shamatha practice of meditation, which is one of the most of the basic practices that to become a good Buddhist, a good training person, and without that one cannot even take your step towards anything at all. In the personal experience of understanding the true Buddha Dharma, that's at this point, this is no myth. We know by experience that how this practice and technique and experience developed by Buddha himself, that he gone through the same process, and therefore we might follow his examples. And the basic question there is, techniques are identification with one's breath and identification with one's walking. Traditional analogy that Buddha said to an accomplished musician, sitar player, he should not control his mind too tight or too loose. That he should control his mind at the level of a right amount of awareness, attention. As we experience this technique, as we practice them, that we should be practicing at the level of that 25% of awareness is on the breath, on your walk. And the rest of the mental activities should let loose, let open. This has nothing to do with the Vajrayana of crazy wisdom or freedom or anything like that at all. It is a practical advice that when you tell somebody to highly concentrate and don't make mistakes, please concentrate completely 100%, and the person becomes dumb and liable to make more mistakes because he's so concentrating on what he's doing. There's no gap, there's no room to open himself and relate with the back and forth play from the objective reference point and the subjective reference point between the two at all. So according to Buddha, quite wisely, this particular method is mentioned in the Samadhi Raja Sutra, that you put tentative tension to your technique and you do not make a big deal of the whole technique and the concentration, which could then bring all kinds of mental activities, frustrations, sexual fantasies and aggression fantasies of all kinds. Keeping in the verge of your technique, 25% of one's concentration span, and another 25% of one's concentration span is level of relaxation. Another 25% of one's concentration at the level of making friends with oneself. Another 25% of one's concentration span is at the level of expectation, that your mind is opened, you might expect something might happen during this practice. So the whole thing is synchronized completely. And this 4 types of mindfulness techniques being referred in the Samadhi Raja Sutra. It's analogies of a chariot, which requires 4 wheels. If you have 3 wheels, there's going to be strain on the chariot as well as on the horse. If you have 2, it will be heavily unfunctional. That horse had to pull the whole thing. On the other hand, if you have 5 or 6 wheels on your chariot, then that creates a bumpy road. That the passengers would not feel all that comfortable. So the ideal wheels that we should have on our chariot is 4-wheel chariot. Of the 4 types of techniques of meditation: openness, concentration, awareness, expectations, which has a lot of room to play. That's according to Buddha Dharma. And we know that personally a lot of people in the lineage have done and practiced those ways, and they have actually achieved perfect state of enlightenment in one lifetime. The reason why the technique is very simple is because that we cannot elaborate on our trip in spiritual materialism. Everyone breathes unless you are dead. Everyone walks. Even if you're on a wheelchair, you still walk. And those techniques are the most simplest and most powerful, immediate, and practical and relevant to our life, our breathing and walking. On the case of breathing, there is a particular tradition that is developed. That the commentary written by Gampopa, or rather essays written by Gampopa on the Samaj Raja Sutra textbook, that there is the notion of mixing mind and space, which is also used in tantric meditative situations, but even from the Hinayana level, that there is mixing the mind and space together, which has become one of the very prominent techniques of meditation. And sometimes this is referred as what's known as Shilak Sungjuk, the combining together shamatha and vipassana practice together, which plays a very important part. Awareness becoming a mindfulness. I'm sorry, it's the other way around. Mindfulness becoming awareness. Mindfulness is being still taking interest in the precision of all kinds, of the simplicity of the breath and the walking, sensations of the body, mind matters, thought process, memories of all kinds, and awareness is acknowledging the totality of the whole thing. And awareness is be described as the first experience of egolessness. According to Buddha's tradition, the term for awareness is laktong, a knowledge of awareness of egolessness is what's known as laktong dagme tokpi sherap. Laktong means awareness, dak means ego, me means less. Tokpa is understanding, sherap is knowledge. The knowledge of egolessness through awareness is the first introduction to understanding the egolessness, basic egolessness. Awareness, this case, is totality rather than one-sidedness. A person who had achieved awareness or who is going through the discipline of awareness has no directions, but just simply being aware, totally, completely, himself or his projections world, complete openness, including precision, which is object awareness at the early level of practice of meditation. Such awareness brings egolessness notion because there's no object of being aware. You're aware of the whole thing completely. You and the other, and activities for you and other as well at the same time. So everything is opened, is object of awareness. So you might ask a question, if you're smart enough, who's being aware of this whole thing? That's a very interesting question. Who's being aware of this whole thing? What does that all mean? What does that boils down to? And nobody's being aware of anything but itself. And that is a $65 question. The razor blade cut itself. Sun shines by itself. Fire burns by itself. Water flows by itself. Nobody watches. And that is very primitive logic of egolessness. And I'm sure the Mahayanas would sneer and think it's terrible logic and it's very crude. And they wouldn't hold high opinions of it. But from the point of view of Hinayana, that's extraordinary, fantastic logic. A razor blade cuts itself. Fire burns itself. And the water quench thirst by itself. Is the egolessness of vipassana practice, or traditionally known as what's known as Smriti Putana or Satipatthana in Pali, which is resting one's intelligence, which is equally the same as awareness. Awareness, in this case, that the person who is practicing such a discipline does not give up his or her techniques of awareness of the breathing, anapanasati, coming and going of the breath, or the walking practice of meditation, but he or she simply relate with that particular discipline in a more expansive way, that they begin to relate with the whole thing at the level of what's known as the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Mindfulness of body, and the mindfulness of consciousness, and the mindfulness of livelihood, and the mindfulness of effort. If you begin to relate with every move that you make in your sitting practice of meditation, if you begin to make note of every detail, every aspect of your movement, your relationships of everything what you do, there's no room for anything else at all. That every area is being taken over by meditation, by vipassana practice. So you have no one to practice, nothing to practice. There's no you actually exist. Even if you think in terms of I am practicing this particular technique, and you have no one to really relate to, no one to talk to, because even at the moment when you say I am practice, which is also expression of awareness at the same time, so you have nothing is left, none whatsoever. There's no I am practicing even. You can still say the empty words, like tiger's corpse, as been described, or lion's corpse. That the lion the corpse of a lion still remains in the jungle. The other animals are frightened of the lion. But the only way to disintegrate the lion's corpse is the worms creep from underneath the lion, who doesn't see from the exterior of the lion's corpse, and eat through. So finally the lion's corpse disintegrates on the ground. Awareness, tlak-tong dangwitok pi shirap. Egoless knowledge of insight, vipassana. If you're not asking any questions, you're welcome.
You characterize shamatha as the word mindfulness, and then characterize vipassana the word awareness. But you went on past those 2 practices to describe the mind spaces of shamatha.
Shamatha is mindfulness, yeah?
Yeah, shamatha and vipassana. I was wondering what word would characterize that. Why you said that the vipassana was built on shamatha, and it was came after that. We developed that precision. Then we got more expansive and opened up, and that became awareness. But then you described another practice after that, which was the shamatha vipassana. What word would characterize that if mindfulness and awareness characterize the first 2?
I think it's a combination of being precise at the same time being open. And the precision is shamatha, and openness is vipassana. And it is possible to have both of those situations happening together.
Don't they happen together in vipassana? Isn't vipassana built on that?
That is why. And one of the important, interesting points is that even at the level of Mahāti, or such as the Mahamudra experience of tantric awareness, that vipassana and shamatha still functions and is still valid because you have developed a basic way of taming your mind. It's already developed, still developing.
Well, I'm asking is that if Vipassana is built on shamatha, why does it have to come back around again and say you have to say shamatha Vipassana?
Further clarity, further precision. And it comes back at the level of sixth bhumi of the Bodhisattva. When Bodhisattva achieved the paramita of prajna, and still he comes back to shamatha. And Vipassana comes back again. There is another second round.
Maybe something like that, the Vipassana is that expansive openness, and maybe it's a little too loose.
That's right. It loses its perspective. So there's a constant renewal things happening. And the same thing happens in the Kriya Yoga and Tantra level, that you have to start with the Kriya Yoga, which is a purity and the first of the six bhumis of Tantra, six yanas of Tantra, that you begin again your precision once more. And then it happens again at the level of higher yanas of Mahayana, Mahayogayana, of Mahati Tantra, that you bring back your precisions of relating with a certain mandalas and experience of phenomena. So there's constant recalling again and again and again throughout the 9 yanas that the notion of shamatha practice of precision is always recalled again and again.
Rinpoche, can you go into the Satipatthana a little bit and clarify it? And
Satipatthana.
Also, should that be practiced quite early in the meditation practice?
Satipatthana, Smritipatthana, or is known as in the Sanskrit way, is the basis of mindfulness practice that goes between the shamatha and the vipassana practice. The 4 foundations of mindfulness. Trungpa, Nyevara, Shakpa, Shi.
It's one of the 4 with the vipassana.
All of them, Satipatthana means Trungpa, Nyevara, Shakpa, which means resting your cognitive mind. Mindfulness, yeah. And that is always important point, and it is impossible to begin on the Buddhist path without that at all. That it is the foundations of your building. That without going through that particular process, that you have misunderstandings of Vajrayana, misunderstanding of Mahayana, no, at the same time, of course, misunderstanding of Hinayana. So, Satipatthana is the only way that it is being taught. And it is very important, basic beginning, that a person cannot begin any spiritual discipline without that, because the person's mind is not attained at that point. And basic sanity has been developed. And there's no reconciliation is developed at all at the beginner's level.
It's not easy.
It's very hard, very difficult. That's why it is called Hinayana, narrow path, very severe, extremely severe. It's not happy and having fun, particularly. It's very difficult.
Has to be conquered.
Has to reconcile it. And that's why there will be very rare Buddhists. If those people who are actually going to involve themselves into such process, then they are going to be what's known as the golden Buddhist, who had burned and hammered and molded and finally it turned into be pure gold. and beyond the 24 karat level. And that's why it is fine gold. It is very difficult, but it is better to have a golden Buddhist than copper Buddhists.
But it's desirable to have.
Which is polluting the air.
Rinpoche, in meditation practice, when one is beginning to become aware of the space around the breath, are you saying that there is no longer a watcher involved?
There is still a watcher involved. But a watcher is no longer regarded as a problematic, but a watcher is regarded as a vehicle.
Is one encouraged to watcher during meditation?
Well, one doesn't do anything to do with the watcher, just live with the watcher.
How is the watcher a vehicle?
I beg your pardon?
How is the watcher a vehicle?
How is the watcher what?
A vehicle.
Well, you don't have anything else than the watcher as a vehicle. At that point, that's the only intelligent voice that you have, is the watcher. And you, for lack of a better choice, that's it. And sometimes watcher is referred as self-consciousness. And in the Christian tradition, it is referred as a guilt conflict, whatever.
If one is using the technique of identifying with the breath, is then the relationship of harmony different than what you described?
The relationship of what?
The harmony that you described of the 25% concentration of the attention on the breath and 25% of relaxation and so forth. Is that a problem in terms of identifying with the breath?
Absolutely not. That provides more possibilities of identifying. Take a very simple example. People find it very conducive to eat popcorns as they watch movies. Very conducive because of 25% of their concentration, maybe 50% of their concentration is on the screen. Another 25% is on popcorn. Another 25% is on your good company or drinking Coca-Cola, for that matter, which makes the whole experience of going to the cinema is very pleasurable. And that's precisely the whole point. And you develop enormous concentration. You follow the dialogue in the movie, and you follow every story, and you have a good time in the movie.
Last summer, before Indian tune, you said, don't be the watcher, be present. Could you say something about that?
Well, you can't be the watcher anyway. But if you try to be the watcher, that you're creating further problems. It's like a leprosy, that when you have one wound, that expands another wound, another growth, constantly. So less watcher, this case means more clean cut, rather than abandoning the watcher as such, but just not taking part in the watcher's trip as such.
Does the watcher have a reference point?
That is the watcher. The reference point is the watcher. The reference point referring to itself is the watcher. So there's no other watcher than the reference point. And that is the whole point. That all kinds of reference point, it becomes a watcher.
I mentioned to you the other night that I see these words. Some of them seem to
You
be
see what?
words. I see words. And some of them seem to be other people's thoughts. And some of them seem to be communications from somewhere else. and some of them, as I said, seem to be directions. And it's very hard for me to distinguish, what's what.
Why bother?
You said that, not to clarify,
Why bother?
Well, I can try to ride through the confusion, but then...
Well, there's no point in trying to sort out which confusion is whose.
Right.
Then you have to sort out which dollar is whose, and every cent is whose, every nickel is whose. The whole thing becomes very complicated, and maybe some analytical schools might encourage you to sort out the problem of the universe by doing one by one. But according to Buddhism, we are very sloppy, I'm afraid, that we don't bother to count our pennies, but we just deal with dollars or $20 check or $700 check. Just simply, it's money. Doesn't matter who paid every cent of it. And that doesn't seem to present any problems.
I've been writing. I'm a writer, so I record it. So I just...
Well, you have to write very simply. Possibilities you might have become more successful writer if you simplify the problem and the plots. That is very clean-cut, very intriguing at the same time. Maybe very mysterious, makes bestseller.
I don't know. I wouldn't know how to simplify it without clarity.
Well, don't try to. That's the starting point.
Making friends with oneself.
Well said.
Can you make a distinction between anticipation as hope and expectation, which you listed as 25%?
Anticipation?
Well, once you said that you must give up hope, and I'm a little confused as, the distinction between hope and expectation.
Hope is future-oriented. Expectation is much closer to reality, but still not quite getting to the reality. In the verge of reality in the past and present. And hope is like saying, I hope I could be a mother of a child. Expectation is you're already pregnant. That it is already happening in real life, that you're going to bore your child, which is much more immediate.
What's perfect enlightenment?
What is perfect enlightenment? Actually, did you say that? Traditionally, Samyak Sambuddha means enlightenment without a reference point. That there is no certainty whether you have actually attained enlightenment or not. That you are. If you look at it from our angle, it might be very dull, disappointing. But once you are there, you might find it is completely spacious. The whole thing doesn't sound all that glamorous, eh?
How do you avoid creating a very speedy, confused situation by doling out your awareness into concentration and expectation? It seems that in meditation practice, just as in the rest of your life, and to try and keep on top of what you're doing and create space at the same time only creates more confusion.
I think the only way to do is try not to sort out which is better, which is not better. Sorting out produces further problem. Gesundheit.
Is there a point in the meditation practice where you're practicing letting go of the notion of the watcher or a reference point, or it's something that just falls away by itself?
No telling. No promise.
Something you consciously practice letting go of the
Well, no promise. And the dukkha is regarded as one of the first noble truths. Discovering dukkha is also regarded as one of the noble truths. And the path is regarded as noble truth. And the goal is regarded as noble truth. They're all four noble truths, which are equally valid by itself. And one can't say that which is the best truth. They're all four noble truths. Good luck. Well, think about it. You can't sort out which is the best one.
The question I think I was asking, in terms of approaching the practice itself, of actively letting go
Is what?
actively letting go of feeling it happening from a fixed point, or just that's something that just happens through the practice of watching the breath.
Both are saying the same thing. Letting go is watching breath. Watching breath is letting go. Saying the same thing.
You spoke about expectation in relation to that. I didn't quite follow. You're talking about the four wheels of maturity. You're talking about openness, awareness, and then you said expectation. I didn't follow that.
Expectations become immediate. And hope maybe immediate. And experience becomes or hope becomes long-term plan.
So you mean the experience of that moment right there?
Yeah. With the midget.
Is meditation and the practices, techniques dependent on it a form of psychotherapy or distinct?
Psychotherapy is analyzing oneself. And providing meditation as being a therapeutic medicine. But meditation is regarded as not a tool of medicine or even therapeutic, but just unconditional way of being in life.
Well, parallels at all to existential therapy or philosophy of practice?
Somewhat, but the Buddhist approach is more boring. There's no glamour involved.
You mentioned that awareness is awareness, whether you have a watcher or not. You're aware, you're aware. So that's 25% of the meditation. If you go into a forest,
If you what?
you go into a forest, a deep forest, and there's a waterfall rushing down, and then you are in an airplane. After the weekend is over, you're in an airplane, and the waterfall is not there. Does that mean that the waterfall existed at one time? Or is that waterfall still there even though you don't see it?
Do you remember you asked the same question last time in a different format? In the forest with the waterfall, and next day you fly in an airplane. You don't see a waterfall.
Is it still there?
It depends on how strong is your memory. According to the Yogacharan theory.
Does one use memory? Does one use memory?
Well, that's the approach. The world is made out of mind. And if mind made a world, it is there. It depends on how much you are in communicating with that world. But according to the Madhyamaka philosophy, sorry to confuse you, you never experience waterfall or the forest. So you are not on the airplane at all. You're never there. Even you don't exist. And as a matter of fact, you didn't ask such questions at all.
I've been wondering what dangers can one encounter in meditation, if there are dangers that exist.
If a person is involved with the contemplative practice, which is contemplating all kinds of visual objects without developing basic vipassana and shamatha, that scripture says, if you're involved with the visualizing experience without a basic training of mind, you could become Rudra, egomaniac, matrang Rudra. And apart from that, I think if a person is following very simple technique of practicing meditation, with the basic training in the background, there's no problem at all. That is why it is called the development of peace. It is a harmless, very kind. That's why it is called development of insight. Awareness practice, because it sharpens your basic being. It is designed to those people who are following the first sets of the path. According to Buddhist tradition, there are 5 paths. Path of accumulation, path of unification, path of seeing, path of meditation, and the path of non-learning. So in this case, that you are starting on what's called a Chogyam, which is the path of accumulation, in which that person in the path of accumulation should start with such practice of meditation as a beginner, which is a harmless practice. At the same time, it is very fruitful. And that's how Buddha designed. And it seemed to work for 2,500 years. And nobody gone utterly crazy. Except those people who didn't follow his path.
How do you reconcile what you talked about last night, willingness to waste time, with what you talked about tonight with 25% based on expectation? I mean, Rock doesn't expect anything, he's just sitting there, that's what you stressed last night. Tonight we're expecting something.
Well, that's also wasting time. Expecting something is wasting your time as well, because you're not going to get anything out of it.
But that isn't. So that's not part of the feeling. Then wasting. You're not feeling you're wasting your time. You're actually.
It doesn't really matter whatever you do, but still you're wasting time. You don't have to be yourself a martyr. That I feel great because I'm wasting my time. I'm being perfectly good Buddhist, good meditator because I'm wasting my time. Why doesn't it have to be that way?
So wasting your time with that attitude, that is really an attitude that you.
It's not, wasting time is not an attitude. It's just a fact.
Oh, just a fact.
Yeah. Well, my goodness, you've got a very complicated mind.
Why do you use the word expectation?
Can you think of any better one?
Well, there was an argument today about using.
We could waste our time by trying to get a better word. Again, expectation, it seemed to be the best one. Very immediate, very obvious. And also it's a bread and butter language. Bread and butter language. Subway language.
But it's more sort of like suspension, isn't it? I mean, it's not.
Well, wasting time. Wasting time is quite a different from suspension. When you're suspended, you feel better because you are just about to achieve something. But when you're actually wasting time, you are not suspended. You are indulging yourself in wasting your time, which is slightly different. We have to consult the encyclopedia.
Following your remarks about enlightenment earlier, would you care to comment on the somewhat different culture of there is.
What's the differences?
A different picture, in my mind anyway, from reading literature in English on Zen, in which Satori is said to be unmistakable shattering event, and which is then confirmed by the master.
So,
could you comment, please?
What is the other argument?
What you said before previously about enlightenment being boring. Perfect enlightenment.
Not being able to tell.
From this side.
Well, it seems that people who are involved with the Zen have wasted their time. Are looking for perfect enlightenment. The joke is on them. It's not Zen enough. It's not Zen enough. If they're trying to be so Zen-y,
where in our meditation would the Divine Mother aspect fit in, where it would be helpful?
what kind of Divine Mother aspect are you talking about? Can you elucidate? Maybe a lot of people here haven't heard about that expression. Can you explain?
Is that too soon?
Can you explain?
Yes? Who said that?
I didn't get that remark.
No, can you explain more what you mean?
What is the Divine Mother? What are we talking about?
Where the Divine Mother aspect, sort of recognition type of thing, would help in the meditation. Is that too soon yet in our
Recognition? Well, I mean, that's one of the basic points, that actually the Zen tradition is a supposedly very male chauvinistic tradition. But in fact, on the other hand, the Zen tradition is extraordinarily female chauvinistic. It becomes one. The Bodhidharma is a man, and all the master is very tough Japanese guys who could handle themselves, and male chauvinistic that you don't need women to take care of them. They make tea for themselves, and they cook for themselves, and they clean themselves. That's an interesting point, actually. That in fact it is very female chauvinistic. For the very fact they rely on the Prajnaparamita Sutra, which is a sutra of femininity, the Divine Mother Sutra. And to their surprise, that their male chauvinism becomes female chauvinism at the same time. And openness, generosity, and that they're working with the mother who bore Buddhas of the past, present, and future, constantly.
It's all in one.
Yeah, which has nothing to do with the actual sexually male or female as such, but it is cosmic sexuality, if you like to call it.
Both,
the producer, consumer, and activator. That Divine Mother is the phenomenal world that we created. Everybody's a mother of a producer of phenomenal world, that we are mothers constantly, whether you are man or woman, it doesn't really matter. That we are the creator of the world. And we have created, we have consumed the world, and a mother is also that which gives birth as well as that which gives death. Is the Mother Earth, that you bury it on earth, you're consuming it back at the same time. So it has big control in our universe. As the mother principle is become a very powerful thing. And that's why the Prajnaparamita or even the Mahāti and the Mahamudra tantric level, it is been called that originator of the unborn, unoriginated, spontaneous existence are the three qualities of Divine Mother. But I don't know about the word divine, which is we have a lot of associations in English language as being divinity, external deity, and so much problems involved. But basically there is a big mother somewhere which produces and eats up at the same time.
A question.
That's a very important question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Divine Mother. Ladies and gentlemen, probably we should close our meeting at this point. And I'm sure a lot of people would like to eat and sleep. Thank you.